Even after exploring those 3 shipwrecks, there is still one crucial discovery highlighted by the researchers: a Spanish ship named San Diego. The research paper opens with very carefully worded sentences. Small artillery pieces are among the few of the vast number of archaeological materials discovered from most of maritime and seas in the Philippines. By starting this way, the authors are establishing a key fact: firearms are a recurring find in Philippine shipwreck, not just a one-time oddity. San Diego appears right after this as a perfect example, a well-documented case within a much larger pattern. As the paper notes, the archaeological excavation of the San Diego shipwreck in Virgin Island, Batangas, for example, yielded thousands of lead musket bolts, along with a few corded iron pieces, barrels of rifles, arquebuses, and spring shots. That simple phrase, for example, tells us the whole story. San Diego isn't the main subject of this entire paper. It is used as a single data point from a century later to help set the historical timeline. But why was the Spanish Galleon in the Philippines in the first place? The answer lies in the Manila Galleon trade. From 1565 to 1815, Spanish ships sailed an incredible 15,000-kilometer route between Manila and Acapulco, Mexico, moving in one direction. Ships carried Chinese silk, porcelain, and spices from Manila, which were paid for with American silver. In the other direction, they brought back silver from the rich mines of Potosí and Mexico, alongside wine, oil, and mercury. The Philippines was a Spanish colony founded in 1565. Miguel López de Legazpi. Manila, established in 1571, quickly became a permanent trading hub connecting Asia and the Americas. And the Manila Galleon was the very span of that global trade. So, what exactly is Manila Galleon, and why is named after Manila? Well, because it is the Manila Galleon, it actually had 2 Spanish names, Galleon de Manila and La Nau de China, which means the China ship. Interestingly, it got these names because of the route it sailed, not because of where it was built. The name refers to the Trans-Pacific trade route established in 1565 by the Augustinian friar Andres de Urdaneta. He successfully mapped the eastward Tornaviaje, the return route across the Pacific using a trade-wind corridor that no European had reliably charted before. As for the ships themselves, they were actually built right in the Philippines, most famously at the Cavite shipyard south of Manila. They were crafted of Philippine hardwood by local Filipino artisans, who often adapted traditional Asian shipbuilding techniques to meet Spanish needs. These were not purpose-built war ships. They were large merchant ships armed for self-defense, sometimes weighing 1,000 tons or more, and decorated with curved wooden figureheads and gilded sterns. The Spanish called them Galleon de Manila, but the builders were Filipino, using local timbers like Molavi and Ipil. The shipwrecks, tools, and the woodworking methods were deeply rooted in Southeast Asia. The Manila in the name tells you where the journey started. It doesn't tell you who built it or what it was made of. The Filipino hands that built them and the Chinese schools that filled them are part of history that the name covers up. It is exactly the name kind of cultural hybrid that the Lena shipwreck was 2 centuries earlier. Now, let us look back at San Diego. San Diego was originally a merchant ship named the San Antonio, built in Cebu and the guidance of European shipbuilders. It was docked at the port of Cavite for routine maintenance and repairs. However, By the end of October 1600, Don Antonio de Morga, the Vice Governor General of the Philippines, ordered the ship to be put into service as a warship and renamed it San Diego, because word had spread in Manila that a Dutch fleet was planning to enter Philippine waters. In response, the city immediately started preparing its defenses. At the same time, they worked to fortify both the capital and its vital port and the shipyard at the capital, while arming civil ships to hunt down the enemy. Morga himself took full command of the operation and didn't think in a standard naval battle. It went down because Spain and the Dutch Republic were locked in the 80 Years' War, a long Dutch rebellion against the Spanish rule that spread from Europe into Asia. By 1600, the Dutch East India Company, the VOC, was actively trying to break the Spanish and the Portuguese monopoly on Asian trade. In 1600, a Dutch fleet under Oliver van Noort entered the Philippine waters, so the Spanish fleet finally set sail on 12 December 1600. The force consisted of just 2 main ships, supported by smaller local boats. By 13 December, the battle strategy was locked in. At the dawn of the 14th, among the strong winds and rough seas, the clash between the San Diego and the Marshalls of Oliver van Noort began. San Diego was the largest ship, capturing 14 cannons and a crew of 450, but this size became its tragic weakness. Morga grounded the ship with people, weapons, and ammunition, but left too little ballast at the bottom to keep the ship stable and easy to steer. To make matters worse, although the gunboat had been widened for a better firing range, they couldn't fire a single cannon, but because the seawater rushed in through the enlarged openings. On 14 December 1600, the Spanish set out to block the Dutch. With snow just off Fletcher Island, San Diego took catastrophic damage. Reporters suggest sprung a leak below the waterline, either from the very first cannonball fired by the Dutch ship Marshalls, or from impact of running the Dutch vessel at full speed. Due to his lack of experience, Morga panicked and failed to give the orders needed to save his ship. When he ordered his men to cut themselves loose from the burning Marshalls, San Diego sank like a stone. The paper's authors, with great care, then had something fascinating. Interestingly, historical accounts have mentioned the vessel's long-range, large artillery becoming consequential as the fighting occurred on board using hand-to-hand combat, thereby employing small firearms such as arquebuses and rifles, along with the other handheld weapons. That tragedy is the real turning point of their argument. The authors are pointing out a surprising fact. Even with heavy European artillery on board, this pivotal 1600 battle was decided by close quarters fighting. The big guns were completely useless. It was the small firearms that decided the outcome. From the 7th-15th century handguns to San Diego in 1600, this paper tells us a very old story. But it is not just a history of early firearms. It is a history of maritime trade in the Philippine seas. The paper uses the phrase early seafaring machines. That reminds us that in this era, the men carrying these weapons were not regular soldiers, they were traders. The South China Sea, as the paper emphasized, was the first and foremost a world of merchants. But because of the Celtic era and the lawless waters, the line between trader, soldier, and pirate became incredibly blurred. In the end, San Diego is included in the paper for a very simple reason. The 3 older Philippine shipwrecks show us what Asia was building in the South China Sea around 1450. San Diego shows us what that world looked like by 1600. The technology had changed, and the authors left us with his thought in the very last sentences of their paper. Despite their size and offensive functions against the pirates and the crews of enemy ships, firing them would have been intimidating. This is the story of the age of black powder in Southeast Asia. This is also the true appeal of antique firearms. We can always find hidden clues behind the cold metal that tell us exactly what happened in that distant era. So, thank you for watching. Hope you like this video. Take care, stay safe, and I will see you next time.